Are you guys ready to learn about some legendary Pokemon? I am. So guys, like I said, are you guys ready to learn about some legendary Pokemon? Now, this is obviously, as the title says, a top 5 legendary Pokemon list. Be forewarned, this is 100% my opinion. It's based on how I feel these Pokemon, just have impacted me. Impacted the story, impacted maybe the roles they've had. There's various factors, and I'll obviously go into why each of these Pokemon has made the list. At number 5, I have Zygarde. Now, Zygarde, very interesting Pokemon, coming in Generation 6. And not really having a place. Now, the story behind Zygarde that they gave in Generation 6, which kind of tied in with Generation 7, was that it was the protector between Yveltal and Xerneas, and that its whole idea was that it was protecting the balance between the two. And that when Kalos' ecosystem would get messed up, it would come and fix it. And in addition to that, it also tied into Sun and Moon, where it got the 50%, 100%, and the new lore behind it that Sun and Moon added. And I really like that. I really liked that they took this legendary that really in Generation 6 didn't fit, okay? Like Aura Break, really underrated. Like, it's not that good of an ability if you do the calcs for it. Zygarde itself, having a base 600 isn't that good for what you kind of think to be a version legendary. Having a base 600 stat total is really awkward, because it's not what many people would think, a version legendary should have as a base stat total. Thinking back to some other version legendaries, and I'll get to that why I'm calling it that in a moment, but they would have something closer to 680, Mewtwo, Ho-Ho, Lugia, Groudon, Kyogre. So they would have a much closer to 680. And then Zygarde comes in with 600. And that's really odd when you're even comparing it to Xerneas, who also has 680. Now, I've been calling this a version legendary for a while, because this is what many people considered to be the trio for Generation 6. Now, the trio is something that comes about in Generation 3 with Rayquaza, where you have version 1, version 2, Ruby, Sapphire, and then the third game, Diamond, Pearl, and then Platinum. It was thought to be the third. Even Black and White and Black and White 2, we'll get into that, because Kyurem, with Kyurem's, white and black form, really is only one Pokemon with different forms. So you could still make an argument that, well, Black and White 2 are both considered to be the third game in the series. But overall, Zygarde didn't really fit, and many people, thought, well, Pokemon Z is going to come out, we're going to get a lot more information about this, it's going to be maybe a sequel, maybe something that can tie in, give us information. Never came out, got cancelled, Nintendo had some plans for it, and then they scrapped them, and brought Zygarde into Sun and Moon. And what they did with that was kind of nice, because Zygarde had a lot of questions unanswered with it. It still does, but they gave us a lot more to it, They gave us the 10% form, they gave us the 100% form, they gave us the cells and stuff. And those were things that we were wondering about, because you go back to Aura's data, we have 1,000 arrows, 1,000 waves, we have seen the dog form and the 100% form. And it's really awkward that nothing really ever came of that. So it was really nice for Game Freak to go out of their way and bring that to us. Number 4, Kyurem. Now, Kyurem, really interesting third legendary, because what Kyurem did for the story was phenomenal. Now, I will be outright one to say that Generation 5 was, in my opinion, some of the weakest games. Now, Black and White, very different departure from what Pokemon was used to. You couldn't catch any previous generations within it. The story felt too... I don't even have the word to explain what the story felt like it was, but it didn't feel like a traditional Pokemon story. And I'm very happy that in Generation 6 and Generation 7 they were able to get that back. because the story is one of the most important things in Pokemon. Now, Black and White, again, very awkward games within the series for me, but Black and White 2 really shined as they were almost like a gold silver situation, where you are encountering these things a little bit later on in the storyline, and you're able to then, you know, see, hey, N has this legendary based on which game you got. You know, Kyurem confused with this legendary. And it really stood out for me because of the Kyurem's fusion ability, that you could have Kyurem White or Kyurem Black. And I really liked that. Kyurem, very interesting Pokemon that I think made Generation 5 significantly better than it was. Had Kyurem not appeared, had we gotten some Pokemon Gray or something, I don't think Generation 5 would be held where it is now. A lot of people like it, a lot of people don't like it. I think a lot less people would have liked it had Kyurem not been in the series. Number 3, we have Rayquaza. I remember, you know, as a kid, grinding through Ruby, not Sapphire. I played both, but Ruby was the one I played as a kid. Grinding through, thinking I was done, catching Groudon, beating the Elite Four, you know, going through all that stuff. But there was more, and you know, I had heard this is all in the days before, you know, online guides were legitimate. It was unreal. You know, we had heard stories of things like Mew and Celebi, but you couldn't get those in game without glitches or hacking or events. So Rayquaza felt like that to me as a child. Rayquaza, we had heard about a little bit in the story, but like came out of nowhere when we could catch it, and it was like, it felt super rare to us, you know, to me and to a lot of people that I know played this game during when it was new. And then what Oras did with Rayquaza, giving it a more important role in the story, I loved it because it expanded on Rayquaza's role. Now, it did make Rayquaza a little bit easier to catch, and I didn't like that because that really hindered the nostalgia, but I understand what Game Freak was going towards because a lot of people had trouble catching Rayquaza. Number 2. Now, number 2, guys, I have Deoxys. Deoxys is a very interesting Pokemon in how they did it. So, Deoxys is unique because I believe in Generation 3, I want to say you couldn't get it, but I'm not positive. There's some story to do with Deoxys that essentially is, you know, Deoxys originally was like an event Pokemon that you could only catch through an event, but then it became a non-event Pokemon because Oras or something like that, and that was actually, you know, based off of Missing No, and that they designed Deoxys to be, you know, an incarnation of Missing No. So yes, and it does have it here. So in Ruby and Sapphire, you could not get Deoxys. It was not in the game. There was no events. There was nothing. Now, Emerald and Fire Red and Leaf Green, you could only get it if you had an item called an Aurora Ticket, which was an event item. So this is how they used to actually do a lot of these Pokemon in Generation 3 and 4, where they were coded in-game. So I know Shaman, Darkrai, Arceus, a lot of these Pokemon were coded directly into the game, but you could only access the area if you had the specific item. So it's kind of interesting how they did that, and it's really interesting that in Ruby and Sapphire, you know, the first Generation 3 games, it just wasn't included. You see a way of getting it until Generation 6. And then again, you don't with Oras, and how it went from, you know, this Pokemon that very, very hard to get because, again, it's not only an event Pokemon, and like I said, in Generation 3, internet's not really that big of a thing for the people I'm playing with as children, so the nostalgia, you know, this is one of those Pokemon that a lot of us didn't even believe existed, because, you know, you hear the stories, and even if someone had one, you'd think it was hacked in, because in a small town, these events just don't happen unless you have a Game Shark, and very few people actually had those when in small town like I grew up in. At number 1, I've got Mewtwo. Now, there's not much to say about Mewtwo other than the fact that you gotta think about it, right? This is the original legendary. Now, like I said, Mew, for people I played with as kids, internet's not a big thing. We don't know about Mew. You know, we're reading up guides and we're looking under that truck. You know, we're trying all these things. We don't know what's real. So when we're seeing, you know, well, you got to do this fly glitch, we don't know if it's real or not. So to encounter Mew, we didn't really think of it being the, you know, the all end all be all of legendaries. But Mewtwo was portrayed as the most amazing Pokemon there was. Think back to the original movie. Mewtwo was a total badass, you know, shooting shadow balls, it was taking control of people's minds, but at the end of the day, its motivation wasn't like most evil teams where it's like, oh, I want world domination, you know. This was a Pokemon that was mistreated, that was created in a very dark manner, and that was really what brought this together, you know. The Pokemon anime up to this point had been pretty tame. You gotta think about it, you know, what's the worst that happens? You know, like Pikachu loses a ketchup bottle? But Mewtwo comes in and is this like amazingly powerful, the most powerful Pokemon we had seen up until that point. And that's huge because Mewtwo was portrayed as, you know, the legendary Pokemon. And you even think, you know, back in Generation 1, this thing was one of the few things that was considered banned in competitions. I believe it was like this and Mew. And Mew was banned from competitions because you couldn't, not everybody could get it. Everybody could get Mewtwo, and it was like considered just the most powerful Pokemon ever. Not only because of its stats, but because of just, you know, how intimidating this thing was. But guys, that's my list of top 5s. And I want to know, what do you guys think were top 5 legendaries? Did you like things on the list? Did you not like things on the list? Let me know in the comment section down below if I missed one of your favorite legendaries or if you really liked one of these ones. I've been Vampire218 and I will see you guys next time. Bye!